For no reason at all, a trillion-yuan subsidy mall suddenly appeared on my phone. The store was full of luxury cars and mansions, and the craziest part was that every single item could be flash purchased for just 1 cent. I looked at my bank balance, 10 yuan, and was speechless. I'm already this broke, and somebody still wants to scam me? Do you people have no conscience? I was about to uninstall the scam app when my finger slipped and accidentally hit buy. The next second, a notification popped up on the screen. Congratulations. You have successfully purchased a limited edition Porsche 911 GT, estimated delivery time, 5 minutes. I froze. Then a bank alert came in, card ending in 2222 charged 10 cent. Remaining balance, 9 yen and 90 cent. I hadn't even entered my PIN. What kind of ridiculous system was this? While I was still staring at the screen, I suddenly felt something hard in my pants pocket. I reached in and actually pulled out a Porsche key. I swallowed. Could this actually be real? I quickly picked up my phone and looked at the second item, the Crown Villa at Dongjiao No. 1. I hit buy again. Congratulations. You have successfully flash purchased the Crown Villa at Dongjiao No. 1. All items for today are sold out. Please wait for the next refresh. Only then did I realize that the mall seemed to offer just one round of flash sale items each day. What I couldn't figure out was this: a car key could appear in my pocket, sure, but how exactly was a villa supposed to be delivered? Whatever. First, I wanted to see my Porsche. The system's location showed that the car was in the underground parking garage of the mall next to my apartment complex. I ran over immediately, and as soon as I entered the garage, I saw a crowd gathered in a circle. A Land Rover had rear-ended a pure white supercar. The Land Rover owner stood beside it, his face drained of color. I'm finished. I'm really finished this time. How could I ever afford to pay for this? Some of the people watching didn't seem impressed. It's just a Porsche. Why are you freaking out like that? Then someone pulled out a phone and looked it up. Even his voice started shaking. This isn't a regular Porsche. It's a special 911 GT, the only one in the world. It's worth at least 80 million yen in China. The entire garage went silent. The Land Rover owner's legs started trembling. I stood behind the crowd, and the longer I looked, the stranger it felt. Why did that car look so much like mine? I squeezed through the crowd and took a closer look. Sure enough, it was the car the system had given me. Luckily, there was no obvious damage to the rear, so I said calmly, "You don't have to pay. Go ahead. The car's fine." Everyone turned to look at me at the same time. Someone burst out laughing. "Who are you, man? You're seriously pretending to be the owner? That's an 80 million yen car. If it were really damaged, could you afford it?" I couldn't be bothered to explain. I simply took out the key and pressed the button. The next second, the headlights came on and the doors slowly rose upward. Dead silence. Everyone who had been laughing at me shut up instantly. The Land Rover owner stared for a few seconds, then hurried over to me. "Bro, you really don't want me to pay?" I looked at the back of the car again. There wasn't even a scratch. "Go." He was so relieved he looked ready to bow to me on the spot. Then he jumped into his car and drove off as fast as he could. I sat in the driver's seat with both hands on the wheel, my mind still completely blank. Yesterday, I was just a junior employee who could barely make rent. Today, I was driving the only supercar of its kind in the world, worth 80 million yen. This whole thing felt unreal. I hadn't been out test driving it for long when my phone suddenly rang. "Hello, is this Mr. Xiao? This is the sales office at Dongjiao No. 1. The property registration for Villa No. 1 under your name has been fully completed. When you have time, you can come collect the property certificate and keys." I was silent for 2 seconds, then couldn't help smiling. The system hadn't just given me a key. It had arranged the legal ownership paperwork too. I immediately turned around and headed for the sales office. But the moment I walked in, a female sales manager blocked my way. She looked me up and down with open disgust. "We have VIP guests coming today. If you're not here to buy a property, don't wander around. Leave." I frowned. "Is this how your sales office treats customers?" She sneered. "Even the cheapest place here is out of reach for someone like you. Stop wasting everyone's time and get out." I had no interest in arguing with her, so I called the number that had contacted me earlier. "I'm here, but one of your employees won't let me inside and is trying to throw me out." The person on the other end immediately panicked. "Mr. Xiao, please wait there. We'll come down right away." Less than 30 seconds later, a senior manager came rushing down with the entire sales team. The moment he saw me, he bowed almost 90 degrees. "Mr. Xiao, we're terribly sorry. We failed to receive you properly." The lobby went silent. The female manager who had tried to throw me out turned pale. She never could have imagined that the casually dressed young man who looked like he'd wandered in just to enjoy the air conditioning was actually the owner of the most expensive villa in Dongjiao No. 1. The senior manager turned to her and said coldly, "Go to HR and process your resignation." Her knees gave out, and she collapsed onto the floor. I had no interest in watching anymore. I took the property certificate and keys and left. Only after I got back into the car did I realize that what I'd bought wasn't an ordinary villa at all. It was the largest and most luxurious crown villa in Dongjiao No. 1, worth a full 600 million yen. A few cents in exchange for 600 million yen in real estate. Even I couldn't help laughing. When I drove into the villa community, the security guards at the gate treated me with extreme respect. It wasn't until I actually stepped inside the house that I understood for the first time what rich people's lives were really like. A 4-story detached villa, complete with a garden, swimming pool, home theater, and collection room. My biggest dream used to be finding a decent room to rent in this city. Now I was sitting on the sofa of a 600 million yen villa, looking at the few thousand yuan of cash left in my bank account. An 80 million yen car, a 600 million yen house, and only a few thousand yuan in the bank. The whole picture was pretty absurd. Looks like I still needed to find a way to get some cash. The moment that thought crossed my mind, the system refreshed again. This time there was only one item. Building No. 1 in the apartment complex where I used to rent all 120 units at a subsidized price of 10 yuan. My eyes went wide. Each apartment was worth at least 4 million yen. All 120 together came to roughly another 500 million yen. I bought it without hesitation. 15 minutes later, 2 huge cardboard boxes appeared out of thin air in the villa's living room. I opened them and found the property certificates for all 120 apartments. Every owner's name had been changed to Xiaoyan. I stood there holding the stack of property certificates for a long time before finally saying one thing. All right, time to collect rent. The next day, I drove back to my old apartment complex and went to the real estate agency by the entrance. The young agent saw me get out of a supercar and assumed a major client had arrived. But when he heard I was there to list rental properties, he looked a little disappointed. I pushed the 2 boxes toward him. "I want all of these rented out. Take a look at the documents first." The moment he opened the boxes, his hands started shaking. Both huge boxes were filled with property certificates from the same building. He pulled one out at random. The moment he saw the address, he froze. Building No. 1. The entire building? He immediately ran inside to get the manager. When the manager came out, he treated me with the kind of respect people usually reserve for the god of wealth. 120 apartments. How could this possibly be an ordinary client? I gave him my instructions directly. Rent all of them at market rate. 1 month's deposit, 1 month's rent. The faster, the better. The manager thumped his chest and promised, "Mr. Xiao, we'll have every unit handled within 3 days." After taking care of that, I went back to my old rental to pack up my things. But the moment I reached the door, my expression darkened. My comforter, clothes, and suitcase had all been thrown into the hallway. The landlady was inside showing the apartment to a new tenant. When she saw me, she wasn't apologetic in the slightest. Instead, she smiled and said, "Good, you're back. I threw all your junk out for you. Take your stuff and get moving. I'm not renting this place to you anymore." I looked at her calmly. "Our lease still has 6 days left. So what?" She planted her hands on her hips. "I don't want to rent it to you anymore. What are you going to do about it?" I smiled instead. Perfect timing. Just then, the agency manager came up behind me. The landlady knew him. The moment she saw him, she looked delighted and pointed at me. "Manager Chen, don't let this kid fool you. He's just a broke tenant." Manager Chen's expression immediately turned cold. "A broke tenant?" He pointed at her. "Do you even know who he is? All 120 apartments in building No. 1 are now registered under Mr. Zhao's name." The landlady's face went white. "What did you say?" Manager Chen said coldly, "I just signed an exclusive leasing agreement with Mr. Zhao. That broke tenant you're talking about is now one of the biggest property owners in this entire complex." The landlady was completely stunned. Only a few days ago, she'd looked down on me for barely being able to pay rent. Now, in the blink of an eye, I'd become the owner of the entire building. I looked at her and said calmly, "You threw my belongings out without permission, violated the lease early, and caused damages. You'll pay whatever compensation you're legally responsible for, and we'll handle everything else through the proper legal process." She finally panicked, dropped to the floor, and started apologizing. "Mr. Xiao, I was wrong. I really was. I'll pay you 10 times the damages. Please, don't pursue this. I said flatly, I don't need your money anymore. In the end, with plenty of residents watching, she had to compensate me for the damages and accept liability for breaking the lease. I didn't look back. When I had no money and no choices, there were a lot of things I simply had to endure. Now I didn't have to anymore. After I returned to the villa, Mr. Leon, the house manager from Villa Number 2, came to visit and brought me a bottle of very old Domaine de la Romanée-Conti. I looked up the price. A single bottle cost several 100,000 yuan. That was when I truly realized something. Even though I'd only become rich over the past 2 days, everyone around me had already assumed I was a young heir from some top-tier wealthy family. Only I knew that just a few days earlier, I'd been worrying about how to pay next month's rent. Now I was already worth more than 1 billion yuan. Just then, my former team leader called. He told me the company had gone under and everyone was getting together for a farewell dinner the next day. I agreed to go. The following morning, the system refreshed right on time. This time, it offered a diamond Roger Dubuis Excalibur watch for a few dozen yuan, along with a multiplier cashback card. I checked the watch's original price, more than 4 million yen. Then I read the cashback card description and couldn't help smiling. Yesterday it gave me a car, a villa, and an entire apartment building. Today it was handing out luxury watches and cashback cards too. How is this a subsidy? It was basically giving me money. Right then, I got a bank notification. Several apartments had already been rented, and the first batch of rent had come in. I looked at my balance and casually transferred 2 million yen to my parents. I used to worry about whether I could survive in a big city. Now I only wanted to know how rich I'd become if the system kept refreshing like this. When my mom received the money, she wasn't happy at first. She was terrified. Son, where did you get this much money? I'd already prepared an excuse. Mom, I invested in a small business with a friend a while back. This is my share of the profits. You and Dad should use it. Don't worry about saving it. Only then did she relax, but her next sentence was exactly what I expected. Then I'll hold on to it for you. You can use it when you get married. I laughed and ended the call. Having money really did feel different. A system notification appeared immediately, multiplier cashback card activated. Your next purchase may receive up to 10 times cashback. I looked down at the cheap clothes I'd always worn and drove straight to a luxury brand store at the mall. The sales associate asked whether I wanted ready-to-wear or custom tailoring. I didn't feel like waiting, so I went straight to the current season collection. I'd only picked out a few outfits when I heard a mocking voice beside me. Do stores like this have no standards anymore? They let people in wearing bargain bin clothes now? The speaker was a man wearing a fit gold chain, with one arm around a woman beside him. He kept sneering. If you can't afford it, don't touch everything. If you stain something, can you even pay for it? I glanced at him and ignored him. Instead, I asked the associate, are these the best pieces from this season? Yes, sir. 7 outfits in total. Pack them all. The associate froze. Sir, all 7 together are over 800,000 yen. Then add 2 pairs of shoes. The entire store went quiet. The man with the gold chain sneered. Nice performance. The second you hear the price, you start pretending you're rich. I handed my bank card directly to the associate. Charge it. The final bill came to more than 900,000 yen. I entered my PIN. Payment successful. Everyone who had been waiting to see me embarrass myself fell silent. Just then, the system notification sounded. Congratulations. This purchase has triggered 6 times cashback. A moment later, my bank alert showed that more than 5 million yen had been deposited. I almost laughed out loud. I'd spent over 900,000 yen and not only lost nothing, I'd actually made more than 4 million yen. This cashback card was absurd. I turned to look at the man with the gold chain. Sweat had already formed on his forehead. He forced a smile. Hey, man, I was just joking earlier. I cut him off. No, don't. I'm just a poor guy. I'm hardly worthy of being your bro. The words hit him like a slap across the face. At that moment, Manager Liang from Villa Number 2 happened to walk into the store. The gold chain man clearly knew him and immediately called for help. Brother Liang. Manager Liang took one look at my expression and understood exactly what had happened. He said coldly, I don't know him. The gold chain man was stunned on the spot. He knew exactly what kind of social circle Manager Liang moved in. If even Manager Liang treated me with this much respect, then he finally understood that whatever my real background was, it was far beyond someone he could afford to offend. I couldn't be bothered to waste any more time. I took the clothes and left. I'd bought a pile of clothes, yet my account balance had gone up by several million yuan. That afternoon, I went to the farewell dinner for my old company. Most of my former coworkers just gave me casual greetings. I'd always kept a low profile at work, so everyone remembered me as an ordinary young guy. Not long after, Wang Ping pushed open the door and walked in. He deliberately tossed his BMW key onto the table. He was also wearing an entry-level Roger Dubuis on his wrist. The moment he sat down, he started showing off. I just switched jobs. I'm an associate director at the new company now. Picked up a new car too. Everyone around him immediately started flattering him. Wang Peng clearly loved the attention. He deliberately flashed his watch too. This thing was only a little over 100,000 yuan. Entry-level model, nothing special. What really counts as rich is this mysterious tycoon I heard about recently. Apparently he ordered a Roger Dubuis Excalibur worth more than 4 million yen. That's real money. Everyone gasped again. But he quickly noticed that Su Jiejia wasn't looking at him at all. She kept looking at me instead. Wang Peng's expression soured, so he turned the conversation toward me. Xiaoyan, how's the job search going? Haven't decided yet. He smiled. Young people shouldn't be too picky. Our company still needs security guards. I think you'd be a pretty good fit. Want me to put in a word for you? The table grew a little quieter. Everyone could tell he was humiliating me on purpose. I said calmly, no need. I have a little spare money. I'm planning to do some small business of my own. Wang Peng was about to keep mocking me when he suddenly noticed my suit. Wow, that's a pretty convincing fake Armani. Where'd you get that knockoff? Tang Yuring, sitting nearby, couldn't help laughing. Wang Peng frowned. What are you laughing at? Tang Yuring said, I'm laughing at how clueless you are. Xiaoyan came here in a Porsche, and you're saying his clothes are fake? Wang Peng froze for a second, then sneered. Rented, probably. You really think he can afford a Porsche? Before I could say anything, the private room door suddenly opened. A man in a suit walked in carrying a presentation box. Excuse me, is Mr. Xiao here? The moment Wang Peng saw him, he hurried to his feet. Manager Gu? What are you doing here? The man was the manager of the Roger Dubuis boutique. But he didn't even acknowledge Wang Peng. He walked straight to me and presented the box with both hands. Mr. Xiao, the watch you ordered has arrived. The entire private room went silent. The smile on Wang Peng's face slowly disappeared. The boutique manager continued, your limited edition Excalibur is worth more than 4 million yen. Please inspect it. Everyone froze. The mysterious tycoon Wang Peng had just been praising was sitting right in front of him. I opened the box in front of everyone and put the watch on. The diamond dial and rose gold case stood out under the lights. Wang Peng looked down at his own entry-level watch worth a little over 100,000 yuan. His expression looked as though he'd been slapped several times in a row. Su Jiejia added one more blow. And the Armani Xiaoyan is wearing is real too. It's from the top line this season. As for the Porsche downstairs, I've seen it. It's a limited edition. Wang Peng had nothing left to say. The fake clothes, the rented car, the security guard job he'd offered me, every insult came flying straight back into his face. In the end, he could only claim he wasn't feeling well, grab his BMW key, and leave in embarrassment. What happened next was even more realistic. The people who had been crowding around Wang Peng and flattering him moments earlier immediately started coming over to toast me instead. I looked at them and found the whole thing ridiculous. When you're poor, people act like even your breathing is an inconvenience. Once you're rich, you can say something completely casual and they'll act like it has 10 layers of hidden meaning. By the time dinner ended, I'd been drinking, so I couldn't drive. Su Jiejia volunteered, I'll take you home. She drove a Maserati Quattroporte, and Tang Yuring was in the car too. The moment we got in, Tang Yuring started gossiping. So where do you live now? Dongjiao number 1. Villa number 1. The car was silent for a second. Tang Yuring's eyes widened. Isn't that one of the most expensive villa communities in Shanghai? I leaned back in the rear seat. It's all right. Only about 600 million yen. This time, even Su Jiejia went silent. When the car entered Dongjiao number 1 and stopped in front of the actual villa number 1, Tang Yuring couldn't say a word. She thought I was simply rich. Now she realized that the scale of my wealth was beyond anything she understood. I invited them inside for a while and casually cooked 3 bowls of noodles. At first, when I told Su Jiejia in Chinese, I'll make noodles for you, she blushed because the phrase can carry a suggestive double meaning. When she realized I literally meant noodles, she became even more embarrassed. Tang Yuring, meanwhile, wandered around like she was touring a tourist attraction, checking out the pool, home theater, study, and piano room. By the time they left, it was already late. At midnight, the system refreshed again. This time there was only one item, 1.5 kilograms of second-generation Dahong Pao tea, subsidized to less than 10 yuan. My eyes lit up immediately. Ever since harvesting from the original Dahong Pao mother trees was banned, second-generation Dahong Pao had become elite even among premium teas. It was sold by the gram, and every gram cost a fortune. That much tea was basically a pile of cash disguised as leaves. I bought it immediately. The next day, the system delivered 30 boxes of tea. I kept one box for myself and brewed some. Only then did I really understand why expensive things could be expensive. Then I took one box to Villa number 2 as a return gift. Mr. Liang was smiling at first, but the moment he saw the box clearly, his hand actually trembled. Second generation Dahong Pao. I nodded. It's nothing that special. He nearly choked on those words. This kind of tea could sell for more than 10,000 yen per gram. A 50-gram box could easily be worth several 100,000 yuan or more. He asked carefully, Mr. Xiao, do you have any more? I still have quite a lot. More than I can drink. I've even been wondering whether I should use some to make tea eggs. Mr. Liang's eyelid twitched. Using second-generation Dahong Pao to make tea eggs was beyond extravagant. It was practically criminal waste. He quickly asked, if you're willing to sell some, I'd be happy to buy it. That was exactly what I wanted. We quickly reached a deal. 10 boxes of tea sold for several million yuan. I gave him one extra box as a neighborly gesture. Mr. Liang clearly understood what I meant and treated me even more courteously afterward. In just 2 days, between the cashback and the tea sales, the cash in my account had already passed 10 million yen, while everything I'd spent through the system added up to less than a few dozen yuan. And I still had plenty of tea left unsold. Money, status, connections, I suddenly had all of it. That afternoon, I went to pick up the Porsche I'd parked earlier and took care of the permanent license plates at the same time. While passing through the university district, I stopped at a supermarket for some daily necessities. When I came back out, I found my car surrounded by people. A line of girls was waiting to take pictures, as if my car had become some viral photo spot. One girl in a white t-shirt and denim shorts stood out immediately. She wore almost no makeup and had a clean, natural look that was completely different from the heavily made-up girls around her. I was about to walk over when 2 girls with heavy makeup blocked me. Don't you know how to wait in line? Can't you see everyone else is waiting to take a picture with the car? Exactly. Get to the back. I was so annoyed I almost laughed. I didn't argue. I simply pressed the key fob. The lights came on and the doors swung upward. The area went silent instantly. I looked at them. Sorry. It's my car. After putting my things into the front trunk, I looked at the girl in the white t-shirt again. It's pretty hot out. Want to sit inside and take a few pictures? She froze for a second, the tips of her ears turning pink, then nodded. The 2 girls who had blocked me immediately came closer, their voices suddenly sweet. Hey, can we take pictures too? Can we come with you? I glanced at them. No. Why not? I smiled. My car only welcomes human beings. Then I closed the window and drove away. In the rearview mirror, both of their faces looked terrible. The girl now sitting in my car stole a few glances at me. Her expression was completely different from before. I had money, a car, and a house. Now even romance seemed to be showing up on its own. Still, what I was really looking forward to was seeing what the system would refresh at midnight. The girl's name was Zhang Jiai. She was a sophomore at the Shanghai Theater Academy. She sat in the passenger seat looking nervous, knees together, fingers constantly playing with the edge of the seat belt. I smiled. Why are you so nervous? I'm not. Her voice was soft, but her face kept getting redder. I introduced myself first. I'm Xiao Yan. I graduated last year. What about you? Zhang Jiai. Sophomore at the Shanghai Theater Academy. She paused, then said a little awkwardly, about what happened just now, I'm sorry. If it weren't for me, those girls probably wouldn't have gone after you. I almost laughed to myself. She knew how to talk. In one sentence, she made herself sound innocent and also managed to close the distance between us. I didn't call her out on it. It's fine. Didn't you want pictures? Go ahead. She immediately took out her phone and found a carefully chosen angle. In one photo, she managed to capture her legs, the Porsche steering wheel, the badge, and the Roger Dubuis on my wrist. I glanced at it. Are all you girls this professional at taking pictures? She laughed. Not really. Then she posted the photo to WeChat Moments. Within seconds, the comments exploded. Some people praised the car, some praised her, and others recognized the custom watch on my wrist worth several million yuan. I could clearly feel Zhang Jiai looking at me differently again. At first, she'd only known I was rich. Now she understood that I wasn't normal rich. I was rich on a level far beyond what she'd imagined. You really are incredibly rich. I smiled. I'm doing all right. We drove around the university district. Looking at the pretty girls coming and going outside, I deliberately teased her. The Shanghai Theater Academy really does have a lot of beautiful girls. She was just about to respond when I added, but you're still the prettiest. Her ears turned bright red. At noon, I didn't take her to some Michelin-starred restaurant. We went to an ordinary buffet instead. Zhang Jiai seemed a little surprised. I explained casually, eating at fancy restaurants every day gets boring too. Too many rules, tiny portions, and half the time you get home and still need instant noodles. She laughed, and the mood relaxed immediately. We had just stepped out after lunch when I ran into Sun Yan, the guy whose Land Rover had rear-ended my Porsche before. I didn't recognize him at first. He recognized me. The moment he saw me, he got unbelievably excited. After the accident that day, he'd been too scared to think straight. Later, it finally hit him. How could someone driving the world's only version of a limited supercar be merely pretty rich? That had been a chance to meet someone from the very top, and he'd actually run away from it. So the moment he saw me again, he became extraordinarily friendly. Unfortunately, a young guy with dyed blonde hair standing beside him had no idea what was going on. He assumed I'd offended Sun Yan and opened his mouth to start cursing at me. He didn't even finish his sentence before Sun Yan kicked him to the ground. Are you trying to get yourself killed? How dare you talk to Brother Yan like that? The blonde guy was completely stunned. So was everyone else nearby. For the first time, Zhang Jiai truly understood that when people said I was rich, it wasn't just about having a bigger number in my bank account. Even these spoiled second-generation rich kids who normally strutted around like they owned the city behaved themselves in front of me. Only then did I remember who Sun Yan was. I smiled. Oh, right. You're the guy who hit my car last time and almost cried from fear. Sun Yan's face turned red with embarrassment, but he didn't dare get angry. He nodded repeatedly. That's me, that's me. Brother Yan, you've got a great memory. When the blonde guy saw that, his legs went weak. He dropped to his knees and apologized on the spot. I couldn't even be bothered to look at him twice. Sun Yan immediately understood. He turned and snapped, "Don't let me see you again." The blonde guy fled in humiliation. After that, Sun Yan enthusiastically introduced me to the group of friends he was with. All of them came from wealthy families, but every one of them was unusually well behaved around me. They knew cars, so they understood better than ordinary people what my Porsche represented. It wasn't something money alone could necessarily buy. It also represented background, access, and social rank. Sun Yan rubbed his hands together. Brother Yan, could you let us see the car? Just one look. I smiled. Why not? I drove it here today. The whole group immediately got excited. When we reached the underground garage and Zhang Jiai saw the pure white 911, she froze too. Someone couldn't help saying, 80 million yen, and there's only one in the world. The scary part isn't even the price. It's that even if you have the money, you might still not be able to buy it. Zhang Jiai stared at me, and her eyes practically spelled it out. Young, rich, handsome, and not just ordinary rich. That evening, Sun Yan and the others organized drinks at a KTV club. I wasn't particularly interested, but Zhang Jiai was going, so I went along. Inside the private room, those rich kids treated me with even more respect. They had more or less accepted me as the leader of their little circle. Sitting beside me, Zhang Jiai could see it clearly. They weren't being polite just because of one car. They genuinely didn't dare act out in front of me. Late that night, everyone decided to stay at a nearby hotel. I booked Zhang Jiai a separate suite, but in the middle of the night, my doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Zhang Jiai was standing outside in a loose bathrobe, her hair slightly damp and her cheeks bright red. Brother Yan. I'm a little scared being alone in my room. I looked at her for a few seconds, then pulled her into my room. Some things were clearer without being said out loud. The next morning, I noticed that she was walking a little awkwardly. Sun Yan was sitting in the restaurant with obvious dark circles under his eyes. The moment he saw me, he lowered his voice. Brother Yan, the soundproofing in this hotel really isn't great. I cleared my throat and pretended I hadn't heard him. After taking Zhang Jiai back to school, I finally had time to check the system. What refreshed today shocked me all over again. A Rolls-Royce Cullinan for a few yuan, plus the entire global APM commercial plaza for a little over 10 yuan. The Cullinan was one thing. The other item was an entire top-tier commercial complex, including a shopping mall, office towers, and apartments, all located in one of the most central and expensive areas of Shanghai. This wasn't just about luxury cars or mansions anymore. The system was shoving a commercial real estate empire directly into my hands. I bought it without hesitation. In less than 5 minutes, the car key, property documents, and ownership records for the entire commercial complex were all registered under my name. Looking at my name on the ownership certificates, even my heartbeat sped up. This system was getting more and more outrageous. I was about to head out when Su Jiejia suddenly messaged me and asked me to come to a nearby CBD. She didn't sound panicked, but it was obvious something was going on. I drove over in the Cullinan I'd just received. From a distance, I saw Su Jiejia standing outside an office tower in professional clothes, looking sharp and capable. Beside her was a middle-aged man with slick-back hair and gold-rimmed glasses. He kept waving a Mercedes key around in his hand like he was desperate for someone to notice it. I understood immediately. Su Jiejia wanted to use me as a shield. That man had clearly been harassing her for a while. I pulled the Cullinan directly in front of them, got out, and said only one thing to Su Jiejia. "Let's go." She immediately nodded and played along. The middle-aged man froze. This car is yours?" I naturally put an arm around Su Jiejia's waist and pulled her toward me. "Yeah. Is there a problem?" The man's face immediately darkened. A moment ago, he'd been showing off a Mercedes worth more than 2 million yen. Now I was standing there with a more expensive Cullinan, and I was much younger than he was too. He forced out a few laughs, quickly made an excuse, and slipped away. The moment he was gone, Su Jiejia tried to pull out of my arms. I deliberately didn't let go. Looking down at her, I said, "Didn't you tell him I was your boyfriend?" That was only to get him off my back. Even her voice was a little shaky. I deliberately leaned a little closer. She clearly thought I was about to kiss her, and her whole body went stiff. But the next second, I simply reached across, pulled the seat belt over her, and clicked it into place. "Remember to wear your seat belt when you get in the car." Her ears turned bright red instantly. At noon, I took her out for some traditional Shanghai food. While we were talking, I found out she'd been going to interviews lately. I asked, "The company's already gone under. Aren't you going to take a few days off?" She smiled. "I'm not rich like you. If I don't work, I really could end up unable to afford food." I looked at her Maserati and laughed. Most ordinary people don't drive a Maserati. She didn't continue that subject. She just said she had another interview after lunch. I drove her there, and when I saw the address, I couldn't help laughing. It was near the Shanghai Theater Academy again. So I sent Zhang Jiai a message while I was at it. "Come out. Go shopping with me." In the women's dorm, Zhang Jiai nearly jumped out of bed when she saw the message. The moment her roommates heard that the young handsome guy with the Porsche from yesterday was asking her out, they all started teasing her. "What are you even thinking about? A guy like that is asking you out, and you're not going immediately?" Zhang Jiai had no intention of refusing anyway. She quickly changed into a light blue dress, put on some natural makeup, and went downstairs with her roommates. They stood at the school gate looking around for a while, but yesterday's white Porsche was nowhere in sight. While they were still confused, I rolled down the window of the black Cullinan and tapped the horn. "Get in." Zhang Jiai ran over and climbed into the passenger seat. The boys behind her let out a chorus of miserable groans. She looked surprised too. "Brother Yan, why didn't you bring the Porsche today?" "Not enough room. I'm buying things today, and it's inconvenient for carrying stuff." Her expression became hard to describe. I was actually using a Rolls-Royce Cullinan like a shopping hauler. I took her to the APM mall that had just become mine. Zhang Jiai knew I wasn't short on money, but she was smart enough not to get greedy. She only picked one outfit and an ordinary luxury brand handbag, totaling a little over 200,000 yen. I could tell she understood that when a relationship had only just started, showing too much greed too soon was the fastest way to ruin it. After shopping, we sat at Starbucks for a while. She was sweet the whole time, feeding me bites of cake and handing me the spoon. She didn't bother hiding the flirting at all. I didn't reject it either. But the moment we stepped outside, we saw an argument near the entrance. A delivery rider, drenched in sweat, had been stopped by security. "Please, man, just let me in. My order's about to be late, and the customer on the 17th floor isn't answering the phone." The guard looked uncomfortable. "I'm not trying to make things hard for you. The mall has a rule that food delivery and courier workers aren't allowed inside." I stopped walking. Who made that rule? Before the guard could answer, a manager in a suit walked over with an aggressive tone. Who told you to let him in? People like that walking into a high-end mall damage the mall's image. I frowned. A delivery rider damages the image? Of course. This is an upscale commercial complex. Food delivery and courier workers aren't allowed inside. That's company policy. I laughed in disbelief. What kind of garbage policy is that? His face darkened too. Who are you? Since when do you get to interfere in our mall's business? I took out my phone, looked straight at him, and said each word clearly. Because the entire APM belongs to me. Now tell me, do I have the right to interfere? Everything around us went quiet. Zhang Jia froze. Even the security guard looked as if someone had hit pause. The manager stared for 2 seconds, then burst out laughing. You're the owner of APM? If you're the owner, then I'm the richest man in Shanghai. I didn't argue. I called Qin Yongli, chairman of the property management company. You have 3 minutes. Bring your people to the main entrance. If you're even 1 second late, deal with the consequences. Then I hung up. On the other end, Qin Yongli was in the middle of a meeting. One moment he'd been emphasizing that the new owner could show up for an inspection at any time, the next, he received my obviously angry call. Terrified, he immediately led the entire senior management team downstairs. At the entrance, Manager Jiang was still mocking me. You put on a pretty convincing act. Let's see who you can actually summon. Before he finished speaking, a large group of people in business clothes hurried out from inside. At the front was Qin Yongli, chairman of the property management company. Manager Zhang's face went white instantly. Chairman Qin. Qin Yongli didn't even look at him. He came straight to me, bent forward, and apologized. Mr. Xiao, I'm very sorry. We arrived late. Manager Zhang's legs started trembling. Only now did he finally understand that the young guy he'd assumed was just showing off was actually the owner of the entire commercial complex. I asked coldly, who decided that my mall doesn't allow food delivery and courier workers inside? Terrified, Manager Jiang grabbed the arm of an executive beside him and whispered, Uncle, what's going on? Isn't he just some ordinary young guy? The executive immediately snapped, shut up. He's APM's new owner. The annual rental income alone is beyond anything you can imagine. Who do you think you are, yelling at him like that? I ignored their performance and turned to the delivery rider. How long has this rule been in place? More than 6 months. I nodded and looked at the executive and his nephew. More than 6 months. You're the person in charge, and now you're telling me you didn't know? Don't take me for an idiot. Then I said just one thing to Qin Yongli. I don't want to see either of them here again. If I do, you and the entire property management team can leave with them. Qin Yongli didn't dare refuse. The executive was suspended on the spot and removed from the board. Manager Jiang was fired immediately and permanently blacklisted. Not one of the dozens of managers standing there dared object. The 2 men tried to beg for mercy, but security dragged them away in the end. After that incident, the entire APM management team finally understood who the real boss was. I agreed to continue honoring the property management contract, but I made one thing clear to Qin Yongli. This was the first time, and it would also be the last. Once the matter was settled, the way Zhang Jia looked at me changed completely. So, this whole mall is really yours? I smiled. You believe me now? Afterward, we kept shopping and then went to Shanghai Happy Valley. She kept insisting that she loved thrill rides, but once we actually got on them, every time she got scared she threw herself into my arms. We went on the giant pendulum, the drop tower, and the roller coaster. By the end, she was practically leaning her whole body against me, her face as red as an apple. While we were resting, she took a few pictures and posted them to WeChat Moments with captions so suggestive they were almost an official relationship announcement. I saw them and didn't stop her. Sometimes a relationship is more interesting when nobody defines it too clearly. Just then, a middle-aged talent scout ran over and handed us a business card. He claimed to be from an entertainment company and said the 2 of us looked so good that if we signed with them, they could make us famous within 6 months and have us earning tens of millions of yuan a year. I almost laughed out loud. Me, become a celebrity? Zhang Jia rejected him immediately too. We walked toward the parking lot holding hands, and the scout still wouldn't give up. He followed us the whole way, talking about how many resources he could give us. Then I pressed the key fob, and the lights of the Rolls-Royce Cullinan flashed in the distance. We got in and drove away. The talent scout stood where he was, not even knowing what to do with the business card in his hand. Tens of millions a year? My car alone was already worth close to that level. Why would I have time to follow him into the entertainment business? That evening, Zhang Jia said she had stage play rehearsals coming up and couldn't stay out overnight. I didn't pressure her. I took her back to school. Before leaving, she stood on tiptoe and kissed me first. The message couldn't have been clearer. When I got home, I realized for the first time that living alone in such a huge villa was actually a hassle. The place was too big. There was no way I could handle the daily upkeep by myself. I was just thinking about finding a reliable house manager when the doorbell rang. It was the house manager from Villa Number 2. He said the young lady of the house had invited me over for dinner. The owner of Villa Number 2, Wang Qian, was young and beautiful, with a direct, decisive way of speaking. She quickly explained why she'd invited me. She wanted to buy some second-generation Hong Pao from me as a gift for the elders in her family. I didn't take her money. I simply gave her some. That way, she ended up owing me a favor instead. While I was there, I mentioned that I wanted to find a reliable house manager and several domestic staff. Wang Qian agreed immediately and said she'd arrange it for me the next day. By the time I got home after dinner, it was exactly midnight. The system refreshed again. This time, there were 2 new items, a body enhancement serum and a charisma upgrade card. I bought both without hesitation. After drinking the enhancement serum, an overwhelming wave of sleepiness hit me and I passed out almost immediately. When I woke up the next morning, it felt like I had a completely different body. My strength, endurance, and overall physical ability had all reached absurd levels. I tested myself first on the treadmill at home. I set it to maximum speed and ran for an hour straight without even losing control of my breathing. I immediately realized the equipment at home wasn't enough anymore. So I drove to the best fitness center nearby. By coincidence, Wang Qian was there too. She'd only come over to say hello, but the moment she saw me, she froze. The charisma upgrade card had clearly started working too. My overall presence and the way I carried myself were on a completely different level from the day before. It took her a moment to recover. Then she personally took me inside and even handed her private trainer over to me. The trainer had only planned to do a basic assessment, starting with the bench press. But once we started, things got out of control fast. 100 kilograms. Easy. 150 kilograms. Still easy. 180 kilograms. I barely felt any strain at all. The trainer didn't dare add any more weight. I only said 2 words. Keep going. More and more people gathered around to watch. Even Song Hang, the gym's celebrity trainer, came over. 200 kilograms. 260 kilograms. 300 kilograms. 315 kilograms. Everyone was stunned. Wang Qian quietly asked the trainer, "What level is this?" The trainer swallowed. The raw bench press world record is only a little over 330 kilograms. If he keeps going, he might actually break it. I said calmly, "Add more. 320, 330, 337, 338 kilograms. The entire gym went completely silent. I'd already surpassed the world record. But I still hadn't stopped. In the end, I finished at 343 kilograms. After a brief moment of dead silence, the entire gym practically erupted. Song Hang immediately became a fan. Right there, he gave me a black gold lifetime membership card and said every service at the gym would be free for me from then on. Wang Qian stood nearby with a complicated expression. Yesterday, she'd probably thought I simply came from an extremely powerful background. Today, she realized that the truly outrageous part wasn't my background. It was me. The bench press video was quickly uploaded online and hit the trending list overnight. Some people accused it of being fake, while others praised me like crazy. Then the Asian bench press champion personally posted a confirmation. "Congratulations, Mr. Xiao. 343 kilograms. This is a legitimate result, and it makes us proud." The internet exploded. And just like that, I somehow became an online celebrity. It was also because of that sudden fame that I discovered another important feature of the system: reputation points. At midnight, the system refreshed with a reputation check-in chart. Only after buying it did I learn that every time my reputation points crossed a new level, I could claim the corresponding reward. After the bench press video went viral, I'd already completed level 1. I tapped claim. The system gave me a Pagani Huayra Imola outright. Only a handful of those cars existed in the entire world, and each was worth tens of millions of yuan. I looked at the key in my hand and couldn't stop smiling. I'd gone to the gym, and by the time I came home, I had another top-tier supercar. More importantly, I finally understood the system's new game. The more attention I received, the higher my reputation points climbed, and the higher my reputation, the more outrageous the rewards became. So what was the fastest way to get attention? My eyes quickly turned toward live streaming platforms. Throwing expensive virtual gifts around in live stream rooms was obviously one of the most direct methods. I entered the stream of a small creator I'd occasionally watched before. Her name was Alice. She was live streaming outdoors and playing a challenge with her viewers. Whoever could find her in real life would get added on WeChat. I looked at the background of her stream and couldn't help smiling. She was right near my house. It took me less than 10 minutes to find her. My first sentence completely threw her off. I always figured your beauty filter was turned way up, so I came over to see whether you were actually some middle-aged woman using filters to look young. Turns out you look pretty much the same in person. Alice gritted her teeth in irritation, but she still kept her promise and added me on WeChat. Not long after I got home, she started a live stream PK battle against another streamer. The other streamer had a big spender backing her, and Alice was quickly crushed with no chance to fight back. I loaded money into the platform and immediately dropped 5 super rocket gifts in a row. The battle flipped instantly. The entire live stream room went crazy. Alice stared at the screen in disbelief too. Only then did she understand that the casually dressed guy she'd met offline, the one who'd even dared tease her, wasn't some ordinary viewer at all. I typed just one sentence in the public chat. I told you I'd put you in first place tonight. When the second round started, I opened with another 5 super rockets. The other side's top donor saw what I was doing and decided not to challenge me head-on. I kept pouring gifts into Alice's stream, driving her popularity higher and higher while my own reputation points started climbing like crazy. Alice clearly understood what kind of financial power I had now. She voluntarily sent me her home address. While she was still live streaming, I was already driving my newly acquired Pagani to the building where she lived. When she opened the door and saw me standing outside, she visibly froze. I looked at her and deliberately said, "I've helped you this much. Shouldn't you show a little appreciation?" Her face turned bright red, and in the end she stood on tiptoe and kissed me first. I didn't push things any further. I only said, "Go back to your stream. Your viewers are still waiting." When she sat back down in front of the camera, her whole demeanor was different. I sat on the sofa across from her, watching the final PK battle while keeping an eye on the system interface. My current reputation points were already close to the threshold for level 2. The finals began. The streamer on the other side, Lulu, also had a wealthy backer supporting her. As soon as the round started, the other side announced, "You might as well surrender now. Lulu is taking the championship tonight." The live stream room immediately became lively. I replied with only one sentence, "You're backing her? Fine. Then I'm backing Alice." Then I kept adding funds. The moment the PK started, the other side unloaded gift after gift, pushing the score bar heavily against Alice. People in the comments started mocking me. "Didn't you just say you were taking the championship? Why'd you stop spending?" I couldn't be bothered to answer. I opened the platform's VIP system instead. The next second, platform-wide announcements began appearing one after another. "Congratulations to user for activating Super Emperor status in Alice's live stream room." Before the first announcement even disappeared, a second, third, fourth, and fifth followed immediately. In one shot, I activated several of the platform's highest-level VIP memberships. For a moment, the entire live streaming platform seemed to go silent. The activation fees alone were already an amount most ordinary people couldn't imagine spending. Everyone who had been mocking me in the other live stream room shut up. They all understood that an ordinary King tier and the highest VIP tier weren't remotely on the same level, and I'd activated several top-tier memberships at once. This wasn't just being rich anymore. This was treating money like it wasn't even money. After I finished, I typed 2 words into the public chat for the other side. "Keep going." Those 2 words shut them up completely. Lulu's wealthy backer soon conceded privately, and Lulu could only force a smile and announce that she was giving up. Alice won the championship. She stared at the victory screen like she was dreaming. Just one day earlier, she'd been a struggling small streamer who was close to giving up and worried about next month's rent. Now I'd pushed her directly into first place in the most extravagant way possible. After the live stream ended, the room became quiet. I looked at her. "How does first place feel?" She bit her lip and nodded softly. "Good." I smiled. "Then behave. First place can keep being yours in the future too." That sentence hit her hard. Even while she was showering, I could hear her humming softly inside. I wasn't in a hurry. I opened the system first to check the rewards. The level 2 reputation reward had already arrived, a 10% stake in DSA network technology company, and a 3 times cashback card. Even I stared at it for a few seconds. Giving me luxury cars and mansions had already been ridiculous. Now the system had started handing me shares in the platform company itself. DSA's current valuation was extremely high. A 10% stake was already worth more than 1 billion yen. I'd only spent a few million yuan in the livestream room, and the system immediately returned an asset worth more than 1 billion. As for the 3 times cashback card, it wasn't as outrageous as the equity, but it still meant that as long as I kept spending, I could easily generate even more cash. Just then, Alice came out of the shower. She was wearing a loose white robe, her hair still half damp, looking as nervous as a student waiting to be called on by the teacher. I put down my phone and looked at her. That night, I got the system reward, and she stayed by my side too. The next morning, I looked around the small apartment Alice was renting and decided to move her somewhere better. I didn't explain much. I simply took her downstairs. In the parking garage, the Pagani's lights came on and the doors slowly rose. Alice stood there with her eyes wide open. Yesterday she'd only known the car was expensive. Today, actually sitting inside it felt completely different. A car like this could no longer be called simple transportation. It was more like a ticket into another social class. I casually told her how much it cost. After hearing the number, even the way she sat became more restrained. We went to eat first. On the way, she started live streaming again. After winning consecutive PK battles the night before and receiving platform promotion, she'd gone from a small creator to a highly popular streamer. The moment she went live, viewers flooded into the room. She smiled at the camera. Today I'm going to show everyone something new. Then she turned the camera toward my Pagani. The live stream exploded instantly. At first, some people still claimed it was fake or rented. Not long after, another white Pagani entered the parking garage. The driver was Sun Yen. He got out laughing with his friends, but the moment he saw my car, his expression changed. He rushed over and walked around it several times, looking at it like a piece of art. One of his friends asked in confusion, "Aren't both of your cars Paganis? Is there really that much difference?" Sun Yen nearly cursed at him. "Don't compare my car to this one. Mine looks like a toy next to it." That sentence made Alice's live stream room go quiet. Sun Yen then explained that this was an ultra-limited version, with only a few cars in existence worldwide and a starting price in the millions of euros. The comments froze for several seconds. And the more outrageous part was still coming. When I stepped out of the driver's seat, Sun Yen immediately called out, "Brother Yen." The live stream room exploded again. If even a second-generation rich kid like Sun Yen treated me this respectfully, there was no need to explain my status anymore. I didn't stay in the parking garage long. I took Alice into the mall. On the way, Mr. Liang called and told me the villa's house manager and domestic staff had been arranged. He sent their information to my phone. I checked it. 1 professional female house manager, 3 maids, and 1 gardener. That was enough to keep the huge villa running day to day. Once that was settled, I told Alice to go into the store and pick out clothes while I stayed outside to take a call. When I came back, I found her still standing at the entrance. "Why didn't you go in?" Alice awkwardly pointed at her phone. "The staff said I can't go in while I'm live streaming." I smiled. "That's because you don't know how to walk in." Then I took her hand and led her straight inside. An employee at the entrance was about to stop us, but the store manager hurried over, moved the employee aside, and greeted me with a huge smile. "Mr. Xiao, welcome." Of course he knew the entire commercial complex belonged to me. Rules for ordinary customers were one thing. Rules for the actual owner were another. The manager personally served us and even offered discounts and complimentary gifts. The viewers in the live stream were completely stunned. 1 second, the streamer had been stopped at the door. The next, the manager himself was welcoming her, discounting items, and giving her gifts. The comments were full of one question: is this what rich people's world is like? I couldn't be bothered to explain. I simply took Alice's phone from her. "Go try things on. Take whatever you like. I'll handle the stream for you." The live stream room immediately became lively again. After that, clothes, shoes, handbags, and accessories were brought out one after another. I live streamed for her while casually mentioning the prices. Dresses costing tens of thousands of yuan, shoes costing tens of thousands, expensive bags. By checkout, a single shopping trip easily reached the hundreds of thousands of yuan. I didn't even blink. I paid directly with the cashback card. Alice stared at the long receipt, clearly dazed. In the past, those things might have existed for her only as dreams behind a display window. Now I was buying them for her as casually as groceries. I only said calmly, "This is just the beginning. Put yourself together properly, because the place I'm taking you next might not even let you through the door otherwise." It sounded blunt, but I wasn't exaggerating. After leaving the store, I took her to one of the top restaurants next to the commercial complex. The live stream viewers were already gasping just from looking at the menu. A salad was close to 4 figures in yuan, a soup cost several hundred, and a steak cost several thousand. I ordered whatever looked good, and the bill quickly passed 10,000 yen again. While we ate, I checked the system. Today's live streaming and spending had pushed my reputation up by another huge amount. I was only a little short of level 3. Just as I was thinking about how to push my reputation over the line as quickly as possible, a sharp, mocking voice suddenly came from beside us. "Well, look who it is. Our old friend." The smile on Alice's face faded immediately. The newcomers were Chang Jing and a pot-bellied middle-aged man beside her named Yao Tian. From Alice's reaction and their conversation, I quickly pieced together what had happened. Chang Jing had cheated Alice in the past, while Yao Tian had been withholding compensation that should have gone to Alice. Together, they'd pushed her so close to the edge that she had eventually turned to live streaming just to support herself. Chang Jing looked me over first, then scanned Alice's new clothes from head to toe and said sarcastically, "Looks like you found yourself a rich man lately. You're even wearing Hermes now." Alice sneered. "Still better than clinging to an old man and embezzling company money." That hit Chang Jing exactly where it hurt, and her expression changed instantly. Yao Tian's face darkened too. Putting on the authority of a senior company executive, he threatened, "You'd better have evidence before you talk. Say one more thing without proof, and our company's legal team will come after you." Hearing that, I stood up immediately. "You're Yao Tian?" He was still trying to act important when I grabbed his wrist and dragged him into the nearby restroom. After shutting the door, I hit him once, then took out a newly refreshed system item called Truth Spray. Within minutes, Yao Tian was spilling every one of his secrets. He wasn't just involved with Chang Jing. He was also supporting several other women on the side. More seriously, Chang Jing was already 2 months pregnant, while Yao Tian's legal wife had been unable to have children because of health problems. If his wife and her family learned the truth, his career and company could be finished overnight. I recorded the entire confession. Then I told him, "I don't want your money. I have one requirement. Starting today, I don't want to see Chang Jing anywhere in Shanghai again." Yao Tian had just started to relax when I reached over, grabbed the metal faucet beside me, and twisted it out of shape with my fingers. All the color drained from his face. I added calmly, "And don't think about trying anything." He nodded frantically. "Understood. Understood." When I returned to the table, Chang Jing still looked smug. "Your man went to see President Yao. Just wait. He'll come crawling back like a dog." She didn't finish. Yao Tian had already rushed over and slapped her across the face. "Shut up." Even Alice stared in shock. Yao Tian completely ignored Chang Jing after that. He went straight to Alice, apologized humbly, promised the delayed compensation would be transferred immediately, and guaranteed that Chang Jing would be out of Shanghai by that very night. Chang Jing collapsed onto the floor. In panic, she even started to shout, "I'm carrying your child." But another roar from Yao Tian cut her off. Only then did she finally understand that the man she'd run into today wasn't simply rich. He was someone she absolutely could not afford to provoke. I sat back down and continued cutting my steak, saying only, "Good enough." Yao Tian reacted as if he'd been granted a pardon. He hurriedly took his people and left. Less than a minute later, Alice's phone rang. The 3 million yen compensation had arrived. She stared at the transfer screen for a long time. "Isn't this too much?" I didn't care. "Take it. If you refuse, he'll probably be too scared to sleep tonight." Not long after, the restaurant manager came over in person too. First, he presented us with a black gold membership card that offered major discounts at the brand's locations around the world with no reservation required. Then he brought over an extremely expensive vintage champagne said to be worth around 1 million yuan on the market. The other diners in the restaurant were stunned. At one meal, I'd received 3 million yen in compensation, an expensive bottle of wine, and a top-tier black card. It hardly felt like I'd come out to eat. It felt like everyone was competing to give me gifts. I wasn't particularly interested in any of it. I told Alice to keep the bottle. As we left the restaurant, quite a few people came over voluntarily to hand me business cards and try to make my acquaintance. I had no interest in networking, so I took Alice and left. Even after getting into the car, she was still sitting there holding the wine box in a daze. In just a few hours today, she'd probably seen more money than she had in the previous several years combined. I said casually, "Come with me to buy watches this afternoon." She instinctively asked, "For another girl?" I had no intention of hiding it. "Yeah, a younger girl I know has a stage performance in a few days. I'm getting her a gift." My answer was so straightforward that she didn't even know how to get angry. Deep down, she probably understood that a man like me was unlikely to have only one woman around him. At least I hadn't lied to her. And I had my own plan anyway. There was still spending capacity left on the cashback card, and one of the fastest ways to use it was buying expensive watches. I planned to buy two, one for Zhang Jia and one for Alice. They could serve as gifts and also create live stream content, pushing my reputation even higher. So we went straight to the Patek Philippe boutique. On the way, Alice started live streaming again. Because of the previous night's popularity and the platform's official recommendations, the moment she went live she appeared in a featured position on the home page, and her viewer count climbed rapidly. She said excitedly, "I'm on the splash screen recommendation." I only smiled. I was already one of the major shareholders of the company behind the platform. At least the platform staff reacted quickly enough to understand that the streamer beside me should be given resources. When we arrived at Patek Philippe, the staff saw my Pagani Imola and immediately became extremely respectful. They even guided the car into a private interior parking area. The moment we walked into the store, Alice told the live stream, "Today I'm taking everyone to see Patek Philippe." The number of viewers shot up again. When a sales associate approached, I said directly, "Let's start with men's watches. Bring out several options and I'll choose." The comments in the live stream seemed to pause. Most people who walked into Patek Philippe carefully asked about one specific watch. My opening line was, "Bring out several." Just then, someone inside the store recognized me. It was Mr. Liang, whom I'd met before. He smiled as he came over. "Mr. Xiao, what a coincidence." The Patek Philippe boutique manager was standing beside him. Mr. Liang casually introduced me. "This is the new owner of the Crown Villa at Dongjiao No. 1. The manager's eyes lit up immediately, and he personally stepped forward. "Mr. Xiao, your timing is perfect. A new piece arrived just yesterday, and I think it would suit you extremely well." He personally led me to a separate display case in the center of the store. Behind bulletproof glass sat a Patek Philippe. Even someone who knew nothing about watches could tell that it was on a completely different level from an ordinary model. The manager introduced it. "Patek Philippe Grand Complications, reference 5270. My eyes settled on the watch. But what I was really thinking about was something else. Would this purchase be enough to push my reputation directly into level 3? The manager gave the price, more than 1.6 million yen. My expression didn't change at all. I took out my card and paid. The entire motion was as smooth as buying a bottle of water at a convenience store. Beep. Payment successful. When the sales associate took the receipt from me with both hands, the smile on his face became noticeably more respectful. Alice stood beside me holding her phone, and the live stream had completely exploded. "He actually paid. He just buys a watch like that?" I compare coupons on 3 different apps before buying milk tea, and he's buying a Patek Philippe like it's bottled water. The real point is, he didn't even ask the price a second time. I didn't read any of the comments. The instant the payment went through, the system interface suddenly lit up. "Purchase cashback triggered. Cashback has been deposited." My phone vibrated immediately. I glanced at the bank alert and couldn't stop the corner of my mouth from lifting. After buying a watch, the cash in my account hadn't decreased. It had actually increased by a huge amount. But that still wasn't the important part. The next second, the entire system interface turned gold. "Congratulations. Host reputation level increased. Level 3 rewards issued. Reward 1, controlling stake in DSA Network Technology Group. Reward 2, highest board seat in the group. Reward 3, industrial investment permissions officially unlocked." I stared at the first line for several seconds. Before this, I'd only been one of DSA's major shareholders. Now it was different. The system had put me in the position where the final decisions were mine. In other words, from this moment on, I was the real boss of the platform where Alice live streamed every day. Before I had time to study the details, the boutique manager had already brought over several more watches. I casually picked out a women's model. "Wrap this one." Alice froze. "For Jai?" "Yeah." She pressed her lips together and said nothing. Then I pointed at another one beside it. "Wrap this one too." The sales associate nodded immediately. Alice couldn't help asking, "Who's that one for?" I looked at her. "You." "Me?" She obviously hadn't processed it. Don't want it? I do. She answered so quickly that even she froze afterward. The live stream burst out laughing. Alice's face turned red. No, what I meant was, I couldn't be bothered to listen to her explain. I simply paid. If you want it, take it. Why are you being polite with me? When the sales associate fastened the watch around her wrist, she stared at it for a long time. When she'd first met me, she'd still been worrying about rent. Now the thing on her wrist was something she'd never even dared dream about before. She looked up at me. Xiao Yan. Thank you. This time, she didn't call me Brother Yan. Her tone was much more serious. I smiled. If you really want to thank me, do your live stream properly. You can accept the things I give you, but your own path is still yours to walk. Alice froze for a moment, then nodded hard. I understand. Just then, her phone suddenly rang. It was an internal platform message. She glanced at it, and the smile quickly disappeared from her face. What's wrong? She handed me the phone. The message was from Zhou Kai, vice president of DSA's live streaming division. It was simple. Alice was to stop streaming immediately and report to the company for an internal investigation. The reason was that she'd recently received an unusually large amount of recommendation traffic and was suspected of using personal connections to interfere with platform fairness. I laughed after reading it. Alice, however, looked nervous. Is it because the platform has been recommending me too much lately? Maybe someone's jealous. I handed the phone back to her. Keep streaming. But, I said keep streaming. She looked at me for a few seconds, then turned the stream back on. Less than half an hour later, the live stream was forcibly shut down. Only one notice remained on the screen: this account is under review. Alice's face went pale. They really suspended it. I nodded. Good. She stared at me. How is that good? I checked the time. Now I don't have to come up with another reason to visit the company tomorrow. The moment I finished speaking, my own phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. When I answered, the voice on the other end was extremely polite. Hello, may I speak with Mr. Xiaoyan? Speaking. I'm Shen Ming, secretary to the board of DSA Group. All procedures for the equity transfer have been completed. The board would like to meet with you as soon as possible. Tomorrow morning. No problem. I paused. Also, look into someone for me. Of course. Zhou Kai, live streaming division. The other end was silent for half a second. Understood. After I hung up, Alice looked at me with a complicated expression. Just now. What? He said the board? I nodded. Yeah. She seemed to realize something but couldn't quite believe it. Didn't you only own a small piece of DSA before? Before, yes. What about now? I thought for a moment. Now they answer to me. Alice went completely silent. The next morning, I didn't drive the Pagani or the Porsche. The house manager arranged a comparatively low-key Mercedes for me. There was no deeper reason. Supercars really did get uncomfortable after you sat in them long enough. Alice came with me to DSA headquarters. She was still a little uneasy. Maybe I should wait in the car? Why? This is your board meeting. It doesn't really seem appropriate for me to go in. What we're dealing with today concerns you. I opened the door and got out. Come on. Plenty of employees in the lobby were secretly watching us. Alice had been so popular over the past 2 days that many of them already recognized her. Some recognized me too, but most people only knew me as the viral online bench press record tycoon. They had no idea why I was here. The elevator had barely reached the executive floor when the doors opened and I saw more than a dozen people already waiting in the hallway. At the front was Shen Ming, the man who had called me the day before. The moment he saw me, he hurried forward. Chairman Zhao. The executives behind him stopped at the same time. Chairman Zhao. Alice stopped walking for a second. I only nodded. Let's go to the conference room. Once we entered, everyone took their seats. The chair at the head of the table had been left empty. I walked straight over and sat down. Several executives who were meeting me for the first time wore complicated expressions. I was too young. Far too young to look like someone who belonged in that seat. But the equity documents were sitting right there on the table. Nobody dared question it. The meeting had barely started when the door suddenly opened. A man around 40 hurried in. It was Zhou Kai. Sorry, something came up. He stopped halfway through the sentence when he saw Alice. His expression immediately darkened. Who let her in? The conference room went silent. He still hadn't realized what was wrong. The day before, Alice had turned down the owner of a streamer guild who had a good relationship with him, while also taking a large amount of platform traffic. On top of that, the platform had been giving her recommendation slots constantly lately, and people had already been whispering in his ear that Alice had someone powerful behind her. So he'd simply used the excuse of an investigation to suspend her account first. In his mind, she was just a streamer. Suspending one streamer was no big deal. He looked at Alice. The platform is investigating you. What right do you have to enter a board meeting? Alice didn't answer. She instinctively looked at me instead. Only then did Zhou Kai notice me. And who are you? I almost laughed. Shen Ming's expression had become extremely ugly. Zhou Kai, he said coldly. This is Mr. Xiaoyan, the group's new chairman. Zhou Kai froze where he stood. What? Chairman? He looked at me, then at the people seated around the conference table. Nobody laughed. Nobody tried to rescue him either. His face slowly turned pale. I leaned back in my chair. I heard you suspended my friend's live stream. Chairman Xiao, there may be some misunderstanding here. What misunderstanding? Sweat had already started appearing on his forehead. The platform has received some reports recently. We were only conducting a normal review. Where are the reports? Well, where's the evidence of a violation? We're still investigating. So you suspended the account first without any evidence. He stopped talking. I turned to Shen Ming. Who approved the suspension yesterday? Shen Ming's face was expressionless. Vice President Zhou himself. I nodded. Then this is simple. Zhou Kai hurriedly said, Chairman Xiao, I can restore her account immediately. I looked at him. Do you still not understand? What we're discussing today was never whether Alice can live stream again. It's whether you still get to sit in that position. His face turned deathly pale. Chairman Xiao, I've been with the company for so many years. Even if I haven't made major contributions, I've worked hard. The platform has grown to where it is today, and I cut him off. The company gave you that position so you could manage the platform, not so you could turn the platform into your private favor network. Whether a streamer breaks the rules should be decided by the rules, not by whether she knows you, and definitely not by whether she's willing to flatter people you know. Nobody in the conference room said a word. I threw several files we'd investigated the previous day onto the table. Alice's case wasn't the only one. There had been several similar abuses. Some streamers had been throttled because they refused to join designated guilds. Others received recommendations through connections. Some managers had even accepted benefits. Every trace of color disappeared from Zhou Kai's face. I said only one thing. Remove him from his position. Audit whatever needs to be audited. Transfer whatever needs to be transferred. From now on, review DSA's entire streamer recommendation system. If someone earns a living through their work, they're welcome here. If someone earns a living through connections, they can find another platform. Several directors looked at one another. Nobody objected. Zhou Kai tried to speak again, but security had already entered. Yesterday, he'd suspended Alice's live stream with one button in the back end. Today, with one sentence, I removed him from the executive floor just as easily. As he reached the door, I suddenly called after him. One more thing. He turned around like he'd just found a lifeline. Chairman Xiao. I smiled. Didn't you say yesterday that Alice was suspected of using personal connections to obtain resources? That wasn't entirely wrong. He froze. I looked at Alice. Because the biggest personal connection on the entire platform is, in fact, sitting right beside her now. Someone in the conference room couldn't hold back a laugh. Zhou Kai's face went livid, and he couldn't say another word. After the meeting, I did one more thing. I canceled the special recommendations Alice had obviously received only because of me. She froze. Why? From now on, rely on yourself. She looked a little disappointed, but still nodded. I added, if you want to start your own studio, the company can invest through the normal process. The team, training, business deals, you negotiate them yourself. If you build it successfully, the equity is yours. If you fail, don't expect me to save you every day by throwing gifts at your live stream. Her eyes slowly lit up. Really? Why would I lie to you? She suddenly hugged me. I can do it. I know I can. I patted her back. You'd better. Over the next month, I finally began to understand what a true tycoon system really meant. Before, I thought being rich meant luxury cars, mansions, and expensive watches. Later, I realized those things were only the surface. When DSA's board, APM's management team, the properties under my name, and my investment companies all started reporting to me at the same time, I finally had a business empire that was truly my own. And the system kept refreshing every day. Sometimes it was a car. Sometimes a top-tier property. Sometimes shares in a company. Every so often, something strange would appear. Skill cards. industry upgrade cards, physical enhancement items, even collectibles that money simply couldn't buy. I couldn't even be bothered to calculate how much any of it was worth anymore. There was no point. If I needed something, I bought it. If something looked interesting, I bought that too. The money I spent through the system didn't even amount to a fraction of my normal living expenses. Meanwhile, my assets kept growing at a speed even a professional finance team couldn't understand. The only thing that gave me a headache was that I simply owned too many things. In the end, I had no choice but to create a dedicated asset management team. At our first meeting, the person in charge held a thick stack of documents with an almost numb expression. "Mr. Xiao, our biggest difficulty right now isn't figuring out how to increase the value of your assets." I asked, "Then what is it?" "First, we have to figure out exactly how many assets you own." I was silent for 2 seconds. "Then take your time counting." He gave a bitter smile. "That's about all we can do." At the same time, the day of Zhang Jiayi's stage performance finally arrived. She'd started messaging me a full week in advance. "Are you coming?" "Of course." "Really? I already bought your gift." She immediately sent me a smiling emoji. On the day of the performance, I didn't bring many people. I only had the driver take me there. But the moment I reached the backstage area, I could tell something was wrong. Zhang Jiayi was sitting in front of a makeup mirror, her eyes visibly red. "What happened?" The moment she saw me, she shook her head. "Nothing." I looked at her roommate. "You tell me." Her roommate couldn't hold it in. Jiayi was supposed to have a solo during the final curtain call, but they replaced her at the last minute. "Why?" "They said the sponsor wanted someone else." Zhang Jiayi quickly grabbed her. "Forget it." I frowned. "How long did you rehearse for it?" "Almost 2 months. And they can just replace you because they feel like it." Just then, a young man wearing a staff badge walked over. "Unrelated personnel shouldn't be backstage." I asked, "Who decided to replace her?" He was obviously impatient. "The sponsor and the production team decided together. If you have a problem, take it up with the school." "Who are you?" "Executive producer." "Reason?" "It's a commercial performance. Of course we have to consider the sponsor's wishes." Then he glanced at Zhang Jiayi. "Some opportunities can't be earned through rehearsal alone." His meaning couldn't have been more obvious. Zhang Jiayi's expression turned ugly. I smiled instead. "Fine." I took out my phone. APM's management team had recently introduced me to someone who handled cultural projects. I made one call. 10 minutes later, the executive producer's own phone rang. He answered with the same impatient expression. But before he'd listened for even half a minute, his back straightened. "What? The title sponsor pulled out? A new partner has already signed?" He suddenly looked up at me. I was still sitting in the chair beside him, and I hadn't even changed posture. I couldn't hear what the person on the other end said next, but his face kept getting paler. Finally, he said only, "Understood." After hanging up, he walked over to me, his tone completely different. "Mr. Xiao." "Yes?" "The project's largest commercial partner has just changed. The new funding company is one under your name." I nodded. "So?" He forced out the words. "The cast adjustment from earlier can be discussed again." I looked at him. "Don't discuss it again. Whoever performed best during rehearsals gets the spot. I don't need you to replace somebody else just because of me. But nobody gets to use money to steal someone else's place either." The backstage area went silent. Zhang Jiayi looked at me, her eyes getting redder and redder. I walked over and tapped her forehead. "Why are you crying? You'll ruin your makeup. Then you won't look good." She immediately laughed. In the end, she performed that solo better than she ever had in rehearsal. When the performance ended and applause filled the theater, I was sitting in the front row. Standing on stage, the first person she looked at was me. That night, after receiving the watch I bought her, she held onto my arm the entire way and wouldn't let go. "Xiaoyan. I'm going to become really good someday." "Why?" "Because when people talk about me, I don't want them to say I'm just the girl standing beside you." I looked at her. Suddenly, I liked this version of her a lot more than the girl I'd first met. "All right. Then I'll wait and see." Alice didn't disappoint me either. After her account was restored, her traffic dropped quite a bit at first. Without deliberate platform promotion, her numbers were mediocre for several days in a row. But she didn't come crying to me. She didn't ask me to throw gifts at her stream either. Instead, she actually hired an editor and operations staff and began seriously studying how to make better live stream content. 2 months later, she founded her own studio. 6 months later, she'd already signed her first group of streamers. Later, at an internal DSA quarterly meeting, someone reported to me, Alice Studio has become one of the fastest growing content agencies on the platform. I asked only one question. Is it making money? It's already profitable. I smiled. Good enough. As for Wang Peng, I'd assumed I would never see him again after the farewell dinner. To my surprise, a few months later he showed up at a recruitment event for one of my companies. His new job hadn't gone well. That so-called associate director position had been little more than a promise the boss used to lure him in. When the company ran into operating problems, Wang Peng was the first person cut. And now, by coincidence, he was interviewing at a company under me. The moment he saw me, his whole body stiffened. X Xiaoyan? The person beside me frowned. Please address him as Chairman Xiao. Wang Peng's face flushed bright red. At the farewell dinner, he'd once offered to arrange a security guard job for me. Now he was standing inside my company with a resume in his hands, asking for work. Even I found the situation a little dramatic. Wang Peng forced a smile. We were co-workers before. Some of the jokes back then, don't take them personally. I'm actually pretty capable now. If you're willing to give me a chance. I looked over his resume, then handed it to the HR manager. Follow the normal process. Wang Peng's eyes lit up. Really? Of course. I smiled. If he meets the requirements, hire him. If he doesn't, reject him. People don't get into my company through personal connections. The smile on his face froze. In the end, he still didn't pass. It wasn't because I deliberately blocked him. He genuinely wasn't qualified. After learning the result, he stood outside the building for a long time. The BMW he'd once used to show off had already been sold. And when I passed him, I didn't even bother driving a supercar anymore. My driver opened the door for me. Wang Peng stood in the crowd and watched me get in. Neither of us said anything. All the sarcasm, mockery, and superiority from the past had become completely meaningless. The greatest humiliation was never me standing in front of him and telling him how rich I was. It was the day he no longer even qualified to sit at the same table as me. Sometime later, I finally brought my parents to Shanghai. When my mom got out of the car and saw the villa at Dongjiao No. 1, she stood at the gate and absolutely refused to go inside. You're saying this is your house? Yeah. Didn't you tell me last time that you did a little business? I did. She looked up at the villa. You call this a little? My dad didn't say anything beside her. He just kept looking at me, clearly still wondering whether I'd gotten involved in something illegal. In the end, I simply showed them documents from my companies, properties, investment teams, and part of my assets. Of course, I didn't tell them about the system. It wasn't because I didn't trust them. If I told them something like that, they'd probably sleep even worse. I only told them, the money is legal. The companies are mine too. If you want to live here from now on, live here. If you don't like Shanghai, I'll buy you another place back home. My mom went through the documents for a long time. Then she asked, what about that money I was saving for you before? I nearly laughed out loud. Mom, you're still saving that? Of course I am. She glared at me. That's the money for your wedding. At that exact moment, Alice walked in through the door. Zhang Jiai came in right behind her. The living room went silent. My mom looked at one, then the other, then finally at me. I suddenly had a bad feeling. Sure enough, she grabbed my arm and pulled me aside. Son, I don't care how much money you have, but you still have to behave like a decent person. Me? Even when the system gave me assets worth tens of billions of yuan, I hadn't felt this nervous. In the end, my dad was the one who burst out laughing beside us. Dinner that night was especially lively. My mom kept saying she wasn't used to living in such a huge villa, but by the very next day she was already directing the gardener to replant vegetables. Before long, she'd carved a small vegetable patch out of an incredibly valuable private garden. The house manager came to ask whether I wanted him to stop her. I took one look. Let her. If she's happy, that's enough. Once you reach my level, some things stop being worth fussing over. No matter how expensive a villa is, it's still just a house. My parents being comfortable mattered more than anything else. Later, I arranged the best medical checkups and long-term health management for them. Whenever the system occasionally refreshed with items related to physical conditioning, I also found ways to let them use those. Both of them became healthier and healthier. My dad even started complaining that I worked too much. What are you making all that money for? As long as you have enough to spend, isn't that enough? At first, I didn't know how to answer. After thinking about it, I said, I don't know either. Because by then, I truly didn't need to do anything for money anymore. Money had become the least important thing. What actually interested me was how far the system could take me. The answer came soon enough. At midnight one night, the long-absent golden interface appeared again. This time there was no product list. The entire mall was empty. I frowned. Did it break? The next second, a new line of text slowly appeared. Host has completed all beginner stages. Wealth, reputation, industries, and influence have all reached the system upgrade standard. The trillion-yuan subsidy mall is about to enter its final form. I sat upright immediately. After all this time, it was the first time I'd seen the words final form. The golden light on the screen grew brighter and brighter. Then the mall reloaded. Luxury cars, mansions, private jets, yachts, top hotels, technology companies, energy groups, mineral resources, overseas estates, art collections. Page after page of asset categories that had never appeared before unfolded in front of me. There were even many strange special items I couldn't understand at all. Finally, the system displayed one last message. Ultimate Mall unlocked. Future subsidy categories are no longer restricted. Host may freely choose the path ahead. I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I smiled. A few months earlier, I'd had only 10 yuan left in my bank account. I was living in a rental that was about to expire. My landlady had thrown my luggage into the hallway. When I saw someone wearing a designer brand or driving a BMW, it felt like a life impossibly far from mine. Back then, if someone had told me that one day I'd live in one of the finest villas, drive globally limited supercars, and control commercial complexes and internet companies, I would have thought they were insane. But now, all of it was really in my hands. My phone vibrated again. The system refreshed the first item of the day. I looked down and froze. It wasn't a luxury car. It wasn't a company either. It was an ordinary-looking card. Family Health Protection Card. After use, improves the health condition of bound family members over the long term. Subsidized price, 1 cent. I barely hesitated. Buy. Purchase successful. It was the fastest purchase I had made since getting the system. The second item appeared immediately. Core equity in Huanyu Capital Group. The third, private airline. The fourth, top-tier European castle estate. A long list followed. I burst out laughing. All right. There was the familiar feeling again. The next morning, my mom was in the garden picking vegetables she'd only planted recently. My dad sat nearby drinking tea. Alice was in the living room holding a video meeting with her team. Zhang Jiai messaged me to say she'd landed an important role in a new stage play. Then the house manager walked over carrying a thick stack of documents. Mr. Xiao, several group executives have arrived. They're waiting for you to confirm the next stage investment plan. I checked the time. Have them wait 10 minutes. The house manager nodded and left. I sat on the terrace and lifted my teacup. My phone screen lit up again. Countless items still sat quietly inside the system mall. In the past, every time it refreshed, I couldn't wait to see what I would get that day. Now I wasn't in such a hurry, because I'd finally understood something. What the system had given me was never just money. It was choice. Back when I had no money, all I could do was endure being thrown out by my landlady. All I could do was endure people looking down on me. I wanted to give my parents a better life, but I didn't have the ability. Now everything was different. If someone wanted to lecture me about the rules, I could buy the people who made the rules. If someone wanted to use money to pressure me, I had more money than they did. If someone wanted to use their background against me, the industries behind me were my background. As for the people who thought I was simply lucky, I didn't mind at all. They weren't wrong, after all. My luck really was good. Extremely good. I picked up my phone and casually opened one of the industries that had just refreshed that day. Buy. Congratulations, host. Purchase successful. A few seconds later, in a conference room in another city, a group of directors who had been holding a meeting received an equity change notice at the same time. One of them shot to his feet. Who's the new controlling shareholder? The secretary looked at the documents and was silent for a few seconds. Xiao Yan. The entire conference room went silent. Meanwhile, I had already tossed my phone onto the table and stood up to walk toward the dining room. My mom stuck her head out of the kitchen. Son, breakfast. Coming. I reached the doorway, then looked back at the phone on the table. The screen was still glowing. At the top of the mall, a line of golden text flashed quietly. Today's items are still refreshing. I smiled and didn't rush to look. There would be plenty of time in the future. More cars would come. More houses would come. More companies would come. Little by little, the entire world would become my playground. As for money, I'd stopped bothering to count it a long time ago. Because from the moment that bank account had only 10 yuan left in it, my life had already changed completely. Now there was only one question worth thinking about. When I woke up tomorrow, what outrageous thing would this system put into my hands next? I walked into the dining room. Behind me, my phone lit up again. New top-tier item detected. View now? I didn't even turn around. Leave it there. I'll look after I finish eating.